An estimated 246 people died this day, with some estimates as high as 702 people killed as a result of the crisis. And of course, I'm talking about the infamous Texas deep freeze in 2021. And I think knowing these sort of facts and figures is always important before I do videos like this, because it kind of gives me an idea of what sort of energy I should bring into videos like this. So knowing this stuff before I reacted to this was a good thing to check out. This is incredibly sad. I have no idea about this, never knew it happened. So today I'm going to be reacting to that infamous Texas deep freeze. My name is Adam and welcome to the channel. Hope you're doing good. Let's do this.
Total power grid collapse.
How does that even happen?
It created a humanitarian crisis.
A statewide blackout.
What?
For its resilience against heat, suddenly finds itself at the mercy of two brutal winter storms.
Jesus.
Families are left grappling with the unprecedented cold and days-long power outages. It soon becomes a life-threatening situation. We'll unravel the great Texas...
Oh my God. When he said 2 winter storms, was that like at once or like one after the other straight away?
From how it became a record holder to all the ways this could have been less devastating. When the cold front hit that Wednesday, electric utility crews said they were prepared to respond to all reports of power outages.
Oh my God,
but
man,
this could not have
scary.
been further from the truth.
This is so scary.
The next morning, the first weather advisory was issued in Northwest Texas.
Do we have any people in the chat from Texas that experienced this and went through this? And if you wanted, please share your experience down below in the comments. I'd love to read through them.
Isolated freezing rain began falling and expanded to neighboring counties after sunset. At 6:30 p.m., a Delta Airlines flight slides off the Pittsburgh International Airport taxiway. With no reports of injuries, passengers were on the aircraft for 3 hours before disembarking.
Wait,
it would be
what?
another 24 hours before the plane was removed from the runway.
I've never understood that, man. Why do they have to stay on planes when shit goes wrong? Just get the door open and get the ladder down, man, and let them off.
Incident was quickly managed. It was only the first taste of what was to come as the situation in Texas escalated rapidly. Hours later, the Fort Worth 911 center was inundated with desperate calls.
What do I do? Oh my God. I think I hit one of them. I'm confused. My car was spinning. There's a gentleman in a car next to me. He's just screaming. I don't know how many cars are packed up. They're all stacked on top of each other.
First responders arrived at a massive car accident involving 133 vehicles.
Oh my God.
Many of those involved were healthcare workers wearing scrubs and hospital badges. This included an off-duty EMT who jumped into action, working for hours even though he had a fractured ankle and other injuries from the collision.
We're coming to get you, all right? You hurting anywhere? Can you crawl out if I break this window?
Fire engines subsequently closed off the roadway to prevent further pileups. Nearly 120 emergency responders were on the scene to clear the roadway. Meanwhile, buses arrived to help motorists warm up after being freed from their cars to prevent hypothermia. After a 4-hour operation, the death toll would stand at 6. More than 60 others were treated for injuries, among them 4 police officers. Due to the storm's severity and the scale of the accident, it would be several more days before the road was cleared. The collision was the most staggering crash during the February 2021 storms, but there were many more to come. As the disaster unfolded, Texas declared a state of emergency. However, the response revealed a significant oversight. Despite prioritizing gas, they relied heavily on electric heating. This revealed a lack of preparedness in managing energy.
Isn't it kind of scary how reliant we all are on the place not freezing and electricity and power? You take that away, excuse my bad language that I'm about to say, we are fucked.
By the weekend, the freezing temperatures had forced 22 gas power plants to close. The infrastructure, including the production facilities and pipelines, were not designed to operate in such cold conditions.
What's the temperature?
With the demand increased, prices spiked, making heating even more expensive and heightening the risks of power outages.
My God.
Additionally, shutdowns across critical industries threatened to disrupt the economy, not just locally, but nationwide. As if that was not enough, an unprecedented winter event was heading straight for southeastern Texas.
But
By
that's
the
not even
afternoon,
it.
an Arctic cold front hit with snow, sleet, and freezing rain battering the area and intensified overnight. The storm was driven by two weather patterns. First, higher than normal pressure over the polar region meant lower pressure in the northern U.S., letting extremely cold air move into Texas.
Oh my God, minus 22. Is this Fahrenheit? Doesn't say anywhere. I'm assuming it probably is. Minus 22 Fahrenheit. Holy shit. I was looking at this in Celsius and I was like, that doesn't sound... that is freezing though, right? That would be freezing.
Cold air move into Texas.
Maybe.
And second, a polar vortex that pushed down intense bursts of cold from the North Pole. Roads became impassable, and temperatures dropped to the teens or single digits in places with wind chills below zero. This triggered the state's first ever wind chill and hard freeze warnings. Demand for electricity and gas soared as people bitterly tried to stay warm in unprepared homes. Due to the overwhelming demand, unplanned outages started happening, and soon the energy provider ERCOT issued a warning about potential rolling blackouts. That very day, President Joe Biden declared a state of emergency. In the early hours of the morning, ERCOT instructed electric companies to reduce power to prevent a grid shutdown. This action, known as load shedding, resulted in more than 3.6 million people losing electricity. Among those affected were the Beckel family, and it all started with a 911 call.
The fire.
We think medical, a wellness check.
What's going on?
We have family there right now, and the last time somebody spoke to them, they fainted on the phone, and we're just trying to find out if they're okay.
Okay, stand on line for Houston Medical. 1 moment.
The Houston Fire Department knocked on the door 13 minutes later, but left when there was no answer. When dispatch returned the call, he didn't warn the firefighters about possible carbon monoxide poisoning.
Nobody's on the scene, so it's one of those things. If they get there and they have to force entry, they're going to break the door, displace the lock. Yeah, that's fine. Do that as soon as possible. Okay. But this isn't your family member, right? I mean, this is our family. We think that they might have inhaled carbon monoxide in the garage. Why do you think that? Because of people that had called them in the morning. Why would he have been inhaling carbon monoxide is the question? Because the car was on in the garage and they were cooking because the power was out. They were trying to charge their devices. Well, we have units out there. I'll let them know. I'll make a tactical decision on that incident. I'll get HPD out there.
Again,
Jesus.
They left without speaking to anyone inside. It had been more than 2 hours since the first call.
Were they not
the
even...
anxious family member had heard nothing.
Did they not go in?
I called 2.5 hours ago for a wellness check. I'm calling for an update.
Okay, so we went out there.
Did you make contact with the people inside the home? I spoke to the fire department earlier. It says the truck was there for 15 minutes, but that's all they could tell me.
Okay, that's
people
the
are still
same
not
thing I can tell you. So I have the same information they have. There's no other update.
Even though this was the third visit to the house, the fire department got lost. They arrived just around midnight. There was still no response to the knocking. However, this time, they didn't just walk away. Instead, they called with additional questions before entering the house.
They went to the address. They said it looks empty. Why do y'all think someone's there? Or are y'all sure someone's there?
We think that a family of 2 parents and 2 children is unconscious due to carbon monoxide inhalation.
Inside, all 4 family members were found unresponsive. It's believed the family had been unconscious for more than 12 hours before responders arrived. For the 46-year-old mother and her 7-year-old daughter, it was far too late. They were both pronounced dead at the scene. The father and his 8-year-old son were unconscious, but alive, and rushed to the hospital. Tragically, the front door to the family home had been unlocked all along. Later, it was discovered that the mother was using her car to keep warm. When her husband went to the garage, he found her unconscious inside the car with the engine still running. A Conroe family also woke up to an unimaginable tragedy less than 24 hours later. 11-year-old Christian Pavone was found unresponsive in the bed he was sharing with his younger brother. Just hours earlier, Christian had been excited to see snow for the first time after moving to the U.S. from Honduras in 2019 to live with his mom. Tragic home video footage shows him playing in the snow.
Man, this
In
is
hopes of staying
heartbreaking.
warm, the entire family of 5 huddled in a single room in the family's mobile home. Christian was pronounced dead that afternoon, seemingly from hypothermia. But the autopsy would tell a different story, one that would lead to a lawsuit. While families faced the brunt of the storm inside their homes, outside, the state's infrastructure began to crumble under pressure. By this point, many methane gas processing plants had lost power because they weren't listed as essential services. This made it harder to supply gas to power stations. To combat the energy shortfall, regulators manually boosted the electricity supply. But this action triggered a sudden spike in prices, with residents seeing dramatically higher energy bills.
Oh my God, that
Neighboring
is
states were also
disgusting.
affected by the cold, but managed to import power from the unaffected East Coast.
That is disgusting.
However, this offered little reprieve for Texas, which has a largely autonomous electric grid with limited outside connections. It was 5 days into the storm, and it just kept getting worse. Grocery stores were starting to feel the weight of the supply issues. Customers were limited in the water and propane sales. Meanwhile, there were conflicting statements in the media regarding the blackout. Government officials said that renewable energy was mainly responsible, while ERCOT contradicted this by saying that frozen wind turbines were not the main factor in the blackouts. The following day, temperatures started picking up, but Texans were unaware of what was still to come.
Oh my God,
As
is
the day
there
progressed,
another one?
more power generation was restored and the rolling blackouts ended throughout the state. As the power crisis eased up, a new challenge emerged.
I hope you guys know that this is really shocking to me because like we would never experience extreme weather events like this. Like the most we get is like the back end of hurricanes that have already basically died going up like the Florida coast, and then they kind of go around over the Atlantic. And we would just get some high winds, and that's about it. So we would never really get hurricanes. We had one in like 2017, I think. And it was just kind of fast winds, but it was labeled as a hurricane. But this sort of shit is always shocking to me and people who watch this sort of stuff from here because we never experienced this. And this is honestly horrendous. Horrendous, extremely sad.
The extreme weather had caused water mains to break, forcing people to drip their faucets to prevent pipes from freezing. Additionally, power outages impacted water treatment plants, resulting in a decrease in the water system pressure. The consequences were dire. Almost half of Texans were left without access to clean water. One was to boil water from taps or melt snow. Unfortunately, due to the ongoing power outages, many were unable to do so. The severity of the situation was documented on social media, which was flooded with images of people filling buckets with water and resorting to makeshift solutions like using plastic bags and toilets. The power outages even disrupted food distribution, causing some to be turned away from queues. But for some, it was even worse. Burst pipes and water mains caused severe flooding in some homes and apartments. Most houses had their water mains buried in the front yard, hidden under layers of snow, making it hard for residents to locate the shutoff valve. While residents struggled with frozen water mains, another emergency unfolded. Firefighters were called to a blaze at the Hilton Garden Inn.
This is
They
insane.
arrived at the hotel where flames and huge columns of smoke were rising from
How
the
the
roof.
hell does that even
The
happen?
hotel was booked to capacity, with locals occupying most of the 102 rooms due to the severe weather, which had left them with limited or no access to water at their homes.
4 rooms are starting to fall in. If we're going to start doing checking there, we need to start forcing the doors. No time for keys. Some type of Salvation Army response. We got a large number of displaced residents. A large number.
2 days before the fire, frozen pipes had caused flooding in the hotel lobby. To prevent further damage, the fire sprinkler system was turned off. Unfortunately,
Oh my God.
this left the building vulnerable. When the fire started, the disabled sprinklers let the fire spread quickly. Firefighting was made even harder because burst pipes had also damaged the city's water supply. Firefighters were able to contain the blaze after midnight. One guest suffered minor injuries, and 2 others were treated for smoke inhalation. Sadly, a family pet named Chico the Chihuahua was lost in the fire. Just before the 9th day, the Great Freeze was finally over. But for victims affected by the power crisis, their fight was only
I did
just
not
beginning.
need to know that about the Chihuahua,
And
man.
it was time to figure out
I did not
why
need to know
things
that.
had gone so horribly wrong. Was the Great Freeze really unprecedented?
Oh man, that's
and was
really
it a
upset me,
coincidence
bro.
that Texas was caught so off guard?
Poor little puppy. I have 3 Chihuahuas. I have 3 of them, and the thought of one of them getting caught in a fire, man, breaks my heart.
The main issue was undoubtedly
breaks my
the
heart.
high energy demand for heating in an unprepared state. The disaster was blamed on unprecedented weather, but it was somewhat predictable. This was the 3rd time recommendations were ignored. Surprisingly, the situation could have been much worse. During the power outage, ERCOT admitted in narrowly avoiding a prolonged blackout that could have lasted for months. The company defended its actions, which resulted in the largest forced power cut in U.S. history. Approximately 90% of Texans rely on ERCOT for their electricity, which primarily comes from sources like natural gas, wind, and coal. Despite its crucial role, ERCOT does not operate its own power grid. Instead, it works with over 1,800 companies, providers, and utilities in the energy market to manage the supply of electricity. Tragically, at least 19 people died from carbon monoxide poisoning
Jesus
during the storm.
Christ.
Among them was 11-year-old Christian Pavone, whose autopsy revealed a similar cause of death. Initially suspected to have succumbed to hypothermia, it was later found that carbon monoxide poisoning was the actual culprit. Investigators found the fatal fumes were caused by a gas-powered generator intended for outdoor use. Notably, Texas is among 6 states without a mandate for carbon monoxide alarms. Soon, thousands of Texans filed lawsuits against ERCOT for deaths, injuries, and damages. But they would fail. The Supreme Court ruled that the energy supplier has sovereign immunity, which protects government agencies that provide essential services. There were 246 deaths in total, but even this was debated by the community. The storms caused 80 to 130 billion in losses from damages and missed opportunities. Nearly a year
130
later, the
billion.
National Transportation Safety Board's investigation into the 133-car pileup found that road operators had been warned about the severe weather. While de-icer was applied to the road surface, temperatures dropped lower than expected, which led to treacherous road conditions. Since then, Texas has passed Senate Bill 3, which mandates the weatherization of energy infrastructure to withstand extreme weather and requires regular compliance inspections. ERCOT improved its response to emergencies and public communication, creating a more reliable grid. The Public Utility Commission of Texas also strengthened management and enforcement to ensure compliance with new standards. Furthermore, public awareness campaigns have educated residents on home insulation, emergency preparations, and the dangers of carbon monoxide poisoning. But questions remain. Will these measures handle future extreme weather?
Well, maybe countries and states should just stop being so reactive and be proactive and see this as a kick up the ass. And I hope every single state in the whole United States seen this happening and improve their infrastructure and their services and how they deal with shit. Oh man, that really upset me, bro. That little puppy. I hope he was like unconscious. That really upset me. Oh fuck. 130 billion in damages, estimated over 702 people killed as a result. Says there's 246 people according to 3 sources, but who really knows the number? BuzzFeed news analyst says the number is actually around 700. Horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. If anybody's watching this and was affected by this, I'm sending my love to you. Hope you're okay. Hope you're doing all right. Yeah. This was a sad one.